Welcome to the presentation, and today we'll be discussing medical astrology. And this is part two, planets and healthy patterns. And this has to do with the planets in our medical systems or symptoms that we have in our body or that we experience, and how they're linked back to our natal chart or any chart that we are currently viewing. That could be Western, Eastern, Draconic, electional. All those charts, especially the natal chart, shows you some experiences you may have or can definitely be having right now just by looking at your planets, houses, and the signs. All right, so let's get into it. This is brought to you by Luminescent, and I am your host, Elenia Williams, that will be presenting this information to you. So, just a quick overview. I just want to give a disclaimer that the information in this presentation is for educational and spiritual purposes only. It is not intended as a medical advice or medical diagnosis or treatment. Always consult with a licensed healthcare professional regarding any medical concerns or conditions you may have. Medical astrology is a tool for self awareness, holistic understanding, and personal growth. It is not a substitute for professional medical care. By continuing, you acknowledge that you take full responsibility for your own health choices and well being. Now, the planets as energetic rulers and influencing the health and vitality is what we're going to be going over, as well as how each planet rules an organ system, mental, emotional states, and imbalances. So, this is how we're going to be breaking down and reviewing each planet: the body, the system, the organs it ruled, typical imbalances or health issues, any psychological or emotional influences, and balancing practices to create homeostasis. So, we're going to start with the sun, of course, sun number one. The sun represents vitality and the heart. It rules the heart, spine, circulation, overall vitality. It symbolizes life, force, energy, or chi or ki, and willpower. Okay, connecting again to the Leo energy, willpower. The sun in health has themes that surround with heart disease, fevers, inflammation that is shared with Mars, and burnout. A weak sun means low energy or weak immunity. So, for someone who has a weak sun, for example, having a 12th house sun, the sun is kind of like underwater, is being drowned out by the waters of the 12th house. So, that can make the sun kind of weak until it learns to utilize the energy it's surrounded by in order to empower it. Another weak sun could be the sun in Libra or the sun in Capricorn or Aquarius, because these are where the sun has a lot of friction or is at fall or detriment. Okay, so those are examples of weak sun. Another example of a weak sun could be Sun Saturn. That can make the sun energy pretty weak because it's, again, vitality, heart, and Capricorn is about kind of dousing out that brightness. So those are examples of weak sun. Now, in order to balance the sun's energy, whether you're a Leo or you have a highly expected sun in your chart and you're not a sun sign Leo, one of the things you can do to bring that weak sun into balance, or anytime you feel like your willpower or life force energy is kind of low, get some sunlight exposure. Okay, sunbathing has multiple benefits, and it helps to align your third eye better. And your third eye is like the traffic system that the rest of the chakra systems use in connection with the third eye to let you know, like, what area in your body or what hormone in your body or what specific energy center needs your attention the most, because your third eye is going to make that area kind of prominent to put your focus on it. So it's balancing the sun energy, sunlight exposure, of course, cardiovascular activity. Okay, so let's doing some HIIT exercises, or even yoga can help you get into your cardiovascular activity because it does incorporate breathing, deep breaths, And when you take those deep breaths, that air coming in and out is helping actually to push things around in your body as you move. Okay. And taking deep breaths and practicing breathing techniques, although it's an air element, complements the fire element in the sun very well. And lastly, doing some self-confidence practices, building up your confidence vitalizes the life force energy that you have. It vitalizes your willpower so you can take action. All right, so next, number 2, we're going to move on to the moon. The moon connects to fluids in the stomach. The moon rules over fluids, digestion, the breast, the womb, and the emotional body. It also symbolizes the subconscious, our natural instincts and emotions. And these instincts are built during the first 7 years of our lives. Okay. During the first 7 years of our lives is when we have the most subconscious connection in our waking life. After that, we have the first Saturn square at 6, 7 years old. And then that's when we begin to kind of separate that dream fantasy world from reality. And everything that we basically took in during that first 7 years of our life becomes natural instincts that we don't really realize and comprehend the fullness of until our frontal lobe develops. And that takes place when we are entering into our Saturn return. And the Saturn and the moon are both in a frequency together where the moon is the satellite for Saturn. So any of our instincts, our subconscious mind picks up and utilizes, and that influences our emotions for the first 28 years of our lives. Saturn comes in during the Saturn return and kind of awakens you to the power of the moon, in your life. And then that's just saying, like, subconsciously you start to become more aware of yourself. Some people deny it, some people go with it. And this is the make or break moment that happens in psychology for growing adults, is at that time. Number 2, moon health themes. Digestive disorders, fluid retention, anxiety, menstrual imbalance, all those relate to the moon. Okay. So number 3, balancing your moon energy. That means you need to be more in tune with your rest cycles. You need to be taking in more water or figuring out how you can utilize water therapy to assist you in bringing yourself back to homeostasis, because it's very, 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 very important that you have enough water in your body in order to operate. Okay, water, fluid, the moon has the ability to push and pull that element of water or fluid. So making sure you have a consistent rest cycle, going to bed at the same time, or making sure you just get an X amount of rest and you prepare yourself to rest so that you can deeply rest. So when you wake up, you're not still connected to maybe some thought threads that happen the next day. When you go to sleep, you're really supposed to reset. So if you're not resetting or resting as deeply as you know you can or you should, you need to look into the habits that you have around bedtime. You also want to look at what emotions are you holding on to? Are you getting enough water? Are you drinking enough water? And fruit, because fruit also has a molecule of water that is not found in the liquid version we choose to drink, spring water or alkaline water or whatever. So fruit also carries a molecule of water that our body consistently needs, a little bit more than actual like fluid water that we drink. But a little bit of dehydration kind of throws the whole body off, especially for women, So it's very important that you know your moon sign, you know where your moon sign is located in your chart, and the sign that the moon is in is going to tell you what kind of issues or influences can happen with the water in your body. All right. So now we're going to get into Mercury, the next planet. Mercury is connected to our nervous system and our lungs. Gemini rules the lungs, hands, arms, anything connected to duality. Now, the Mercury placement also tells us about the nervous system, our lungs, hands, and speech. Mercury symbolizes communication, our intellect, and our ability to adapt in learning environments. We're able to pick up and learn and go with the flow a lot easier with heavy or strong Gemini or Mercury placement. Mercury health themes are related to anxiety, nervous exhaustion, respiratory issues, and insomnia. Okay, this is where we got to pull out the relaxation techniques. This is where we got to truly bring in the breathing exercises, the breathing meditations, because Mercury, again, connected to the nervous system. This is information being passed along lightning speed. That's how we want it to be, of course. Lightning speed. The messages go very quickly. So if there's a disconnect with the messages, or there's a misfiring where it's under or it's under firing, then that can lead to us feeling imbalanced within ourselves. That can cause the nervous system to be overloaded, or overwhelmed with all the information that's coming in through your senses, and not being able to fire it the way that it's supposed to. That's why it's so important that they're emphasizing mushrooms and things now, because it has the ability to calm the body and help with calming, recall a lot more information to mind in your memory banks as well. So, balancing the Mercury energy requires us to journal, get those thoughts out, get those feelings out, get those ideas out. Okay. Breathing practices, encouraging our lungs as well as our heart and the rest of our body to join in relaxing ourselves. Okay. And meditation is also a great tool when it comes to controlling the mind, because the mind does its own thing. The brain does its own thing. You don't have to tell the brain what to do. The mind also does its thing where it already is structured. It's already created to do a specific job. The issue comes in is when we overload by giving too much focus, because whatever you focus on expands. And Mercury and Sag, or even Gemini and Jupiter, are placements where they don't work as good as it normally would, because Mercury and Sag is like you're trying to think of everything, the big picture all the time, and you're not giving yourself a minute to learn anything new or to check out the details of things, because those matter just as much as the big picture. And then Jupiter Gemini placement is like you're trying to learn everything, but at the same time you're trying to learn how to learn, pretty much. And that is important. That is a important component. But your experiences are also going to teach you things that words and language sitting in a book and reading never could as well. So you got to balance that out with the journaling, breathing practices, and the meditation. So now we're going to get into Venus, which is all about enjoying life. Okay, taking in the things that make life worth living. All right, Venus is connected to the kidneys and reproductive organs. Okay, this is the planet that has to do with relationships, balance. Okay, the kidneys is a filtering system to help make sure the water in the body is being balanced out correctly, and what needs to go is able to flow out freely. And the reproductive organs is associated, of course, with Scorpio. But in this, I know the buttocks are also associated with Sag, but also associated with Libra as well. But in this regard to reproductive organs under Venus, we're talking about more like the part of our reproductive organs that is associated with beauty, with expression. Okay, the sacral space is where we house the reproductive organs, and the sacral space connects with our Venus energy as well, where it's the house of creativity. And also with the house of creativity in Venus, they both connect with Mercury to the throat chakra. So your throat and your sacral are connected. Now, of course, we know sacral is connected with sexuality, creativity, and deep communication coming from other worlds. Now, your throat chakra connecting to that is basically saying we have to listen to what our sacral tells us. We have to listen to our creativity. We have to listen to our emotions that are being stored in our hip area. We have to listen to our body. We have to listen to, where spirit is trying to lead and guide us. And the throat is like the other part of the conversation, because yes, we can speak with the throat, but the throat also reminds us that we need to be quiet and listen. We also need to be quiet and trust how things are going to play out and work out for us. Now, the kidneys rule, Venus rules over the kidneys, the ovaries, also connected with the skin and throat. Venus symbolizes harmony, love, and beauty. The kidney imbalance, some Venus themes when it comes to health is kidney imbalance, diabetes, skin conditions, hormonal issues. All of these are tied to how one feels about oneself and how they're being perceived by another could make someone who is Venus ruled very insecure, make them want to hide, and makes all of these issues that they may have medically even worse. Okay, so in order to balance this Venus energy, we want to encourage hydration, especially with fruits, because this is an example of things being birthed by Venus, that sixth energy. Fruit is being birthed by something that is strong, that is stable, that is being taken care of in order to grow. And that's the energy we want to receive from Venus, is our ability to grow and bask in the belief system, or the knowing, really, that no matter what happens or on our journey, no matter how big we grow, no matter what color we grow into as a fruit, we always come from something strong, sturdy, and grounded. So we don't have to have any fear when it comes to expressing ourselves and our creativity. And whenever you have a blockage in that area, it will show up in the body, especially if it's been going on for a long time. All right, let's move on. So Mars is connected to our muscles in the blood. Mars rules over muscles, adrenal glands, blood, and the head, symbolizing drive, aggression, and action. So, even though Saturn does connect with the muscles, the skeletal system, even the teeth and skin, Mars here, when it comes to the muscles and blood, this is about how we power drive through life. This is about us taking action, being the aggressor, being the one to express energy. So, the energy we have in our body, wherever it comes from, Mars is what allows us to push it. And one of the things with blood is our hemoglobin levels. How much iron do you have in your body? Iron connects to Mars. All right. So Mars health themes are fevers, inflammation, hypertension, injuries, and accidents, especially accidents that have to do with the head. Inflammation can also be acne. Hypertension has to do, of course, with a lot of force. The heart is overworking itself. That aggressive action that's being done. And fevers, we know, is a way for the body to turn up the temperature in order to kill off germs or viruses, really, that don't belong there. It's the body's way of recovery. And we don't want to jeopardize the process of that too much in the health industry, where, especially with children, we try to give them all these things to stop the fever. But the fever is actually what's healing. And sometimes our anger or our aggression or the ability to take action can be inhibited due to how we are perceiving ourselves and our strength. And these are the different ways it could come up in our chart by having like a weak Mars placement. So Mars does its best in the sixth house, which is the house of health, because you have the ability to take action and be aggressive when it comes to your day to day. It'll help make you healthier should you choose. But having a weak Mars could be like having like a Mars in Cancer, or having Mars placed in like the 12th house, or even I would say even an eighth house, where you're so consumed with action, or you're obsessed with movement, or you're obsessed with, being aggressive, being in control, that it can lead to you having injuries and accident because you're overworking yourself. So one of the ways we can balance the Mars energy is to exercise. Okay, have constructive outlets for your anger and any other negative emotion, or emotions we perceive to be negative, which would be shame, guilt. And we want to bring back shame, because it's a way of correcting people to say, hey, I did this wrong. I probably should have never done that. Not to spiral out of control, but to really get into the deep psychological thing of why we took that aggressive or that action in the first place. What was in our head that made us think that this was okay? All right. So we can work that out. All right. And another thing is cooling foods, because Mars is naturally hot. It's on the hotter side with the sun. So having cooler foods or being able to balance the temperature within ourselves or the temperament within ourselves will also help us out big time. And if your blood is clean, then that's one of the ways that we can kind of like see how good our health is. And sometimes we can get urine in the blood, or we can get blood in areas it's not supposed to be in. That means there's some type of loop or leakage or something. There's a hole, in how we move forward or how we take aggression. Our life force energy is leaking, because blood is essentially life force energy. It is a physical representation of that. So with a strong Mars placement, we have the ability to control how we maintain our blood pressure, maintain inflammation by keeping the stress down, making sure our cortisol levels are low and not high, especially for women, and making sure you have a healthy amount of aggression, because you don't want to be so leveled out that you don't do anything. That's a weak Mars placement. And Mars in Cancer, whenever that comes around, it can really drive down people's ability to get things done, because we become so, again, versus the moon, where you want to rest and recuperate. Mars wants to do. So having the energy of resting and recuperating and the energy of aggression and action can create a big conflict. So make sure you know what your Mars placement is. Now we're moving on to the big planet Jupiter. And Jupiter is connected to our liver, or our will to live, and our growth, expansion. All right. Jupiter rules over the liver, thighs, and growth and expansion within itself. That's what Jupiter represents. It symbolizes wisdom, optimism, and excess, as well as philosophy, religion, and legalities. Jupiter health themes is obesity, diabetes, liver issues, overindulgence being that big one. Okay, so if you have a positive Jupiter placement, you have a exalted Jupiter placement. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, so this can make for someone who has like a very big chest, or if you're a woman, you could have very big breasts. You might even be in the school of thinking about getting a reduction if you have a prominent Cancer placement, or a positive or an excessive Jupiter placement in your chart. The thing about Jupiter as well is it is connected to the thighs and the glutes. So that can show up in your chart on your body as well. If you have Jupiter Sag, Jupiter Libra, or if you have Jupiter in your ninth house or your seventh house, eighth house, that can also expand in that area. The overindulgence issues can come up with Jupiter, because Jupiter is more of like a live life to the fullest type energy. So it can easily overindulge, again, with the Cancer energy. That could be overindulgence in food, comfort food, most definitely. That's like soul food, or anything that's loaded with starch, sugar, flour, like bread, like things of that nature. And all of those are heavy sugars, which again connects us back to the diabetes and the obesity issues. So if you are Jupiter root or a Sagittarius, you want to be very mindful of how much sugar you consume, whether it's in alcohol, sweets, bread, or even the type of sugar you're consuming, because there's natural sugar and there's unnatural sugar, chemically made sugar. And the overindulgence, the greatest addiction is white sugar. And that has caused a lot of issues for generations at this point that we've been able to study. So when it comes to the liver issues, your liver, as well as the gallbladder, they work together in tandem to make sure you exert the energy you need to grow and expand, so you can meet whatever goals or targets you have. When you are underutilizing your ability to live life, your liver will tell you, by being sad or sick. When you are overutilizing your energy to try to live a good and healthy life, when you overdo it, your liver will show you is sad or sick. It will show up in your health where it will call your attention. And you have astrology, especially Vedic astrologers, that will show you and point out to you like, hey, I can see this in your chart when it comes to this organ because of this placement. You're doing too much, or you might feel like you're not doing enough. All right. So, in order to balance the energy with Jupiter, we want to be doing things in moderation, humility. Okay. Sag or Jupiter connects with the Temperance card in the major arcana of tarot. And the Temperance card is all about humility, being in touch with both who you are as a human, but also who you are in spirit. All right. So, be very mindful of what you eat and what you consume. Okay, be very, very mindful of what you consume. Eat, drink through your eye gate, what you watch, through your ear gate, what you listen to, what builds your philosophy or your spirituality in life. Be careful of the things that you are taking in and studying because that plays a huge part in how you perceive. Okay. If you have been overindulging in alcohol for most of your life, when you get older, you're more apt to having dementia or some form of or diabetes or liver issues or obesity because all of that connects back to the overindulgence in sugar, and the type of sugars that was created through alcohol leaves the body feeling dehydrated. And when you're dehydrated, you are confused. You forget things very easily. You forget where you are. And over time, if you never develop a habit to rehydrate yourself, it just gets worse. And that's how we end up in all these situations where our elders, especially in the indigenous African American community, where our ancestors or our elders were always drinking alcohol and then they end up being demented when they get older. So this is an opportunity for our generation and the generation just before us to make that habit go away by indulging in things that are healthier choices, a healthier vice than alcohol or sugar. So let's get into Big Daddy King Saturn. All right, Saturn connects with bones and teeth as well as the musculoskeletal system. It rules over bones, teeth, skin, joints. It symbolizes discipline, restriction, and what we know today as karma. Now, with the musculoskeletal system connecting to discipline, restriction, and karma, is that you have to be in control of how you use your body mindfully in order to prevent injury, Aries, inflammation, Sun, Aries. Okay. So when we discipline our body with our Mars energy and our Sun energy, because the Sun and the Mars is what's giving us the energy, and then Saturn is saying, now use it. Capricorn is I use. So we use it, create a schedule where we consistently brush our teeth, stretch our bones, move our joints, clean our skin. And all of these things require some form of restriction or a boundary to be put in place in order to protect them. What protects your bones? You have muscles, you have flesh, skin that covers over that. Okay, what's protecting our skin? Well, the skin is the largest organ on the body, number one. But number two, we can utilize natural things to keep our skin hydrated, looking rejuvenated and youthful. We can also wear clothes to cover our skin. Depending on, where you are in the world and your culture, you may or may not have to use an aesthetically pleasing sunscreen, but there are things you can use with the sun to help increase oxygen in your body when you go sunbathe. So the thing about karma or things circling back around for completion when it comes to our skin, bones, teeth, joints, and things of that nature is what you put out is what's going to come back, which is why discipline and restriction is very helpful when you are preparing your body to become stronger, when you're working out, when you're practicing for a sport. Saturn is in the mix here. So some health themes we have with Saturn is arthritis, bone weakness like osteoporosis, chronic illnesses, and depression. Now, depression, um, basically is the best way that Jim Carrey kind of described it, is when your avatar body, which is like your human part of you, is very unhappy with the game that your higher self is wanting to get out of the game, but your physical self is keeping you there. And there's a disconnect between your physical and your spiritual self. Just like we were talking about with the temperance card, right? Being humble enough to accept direction from your higher power, but also being grounded enough in your reality to know that you have free will when you move forward. So, in order to balance out these energies with Saturn, you want to have a structured routine. You want to make sure you have healthy weight bearing exercises. And always, especially if you have Sun Saturn, Moon Saturn, or you have Capricorn or Aquarius stellium, or you have Saturn in the fourth house, or you have Saturn even, I would say Saturn in the first house, Saturn in the sixth house, which is not too bad, but having those placements are having very strong themed Saturn energy, whether it's Capricorn, Aquarius, is very, 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 very important that you exercise patience with yourself first. Because Saturn is an energy, again, this takes almost 30 years to circle around the zodiac. All right. So there's a lot of things that can go on and build up in your life. And then once we all hit 30, we like, oh, that hurt. Ooh, yeah, It's because Saturn has allowed you to go without discipline on certain things or restrictions about certain things. So when you get to the point where now you feel it, you have to do something about it. You got to create a whole structured routine on how you can bring that structure into balance, because without bones, how are you going to stand? How are you going to walk? Without teeth, how are you going to chew? How are you going to get the proper nutrition that you need? Okay. If your skin is not, being taken care of properly, that's a big one. People get skin infection and stuff like that. It can completely change the dynamic of who they are, just from something so simple, so small, joints with arthritis. Your bones rubbing together because they ain't got no lubrication in between. That's the moon and Saturn working together. All right. So this can all be viewed in your natal chart, in your parents' natal chart, your grandparents, your children. Okay. So it's very important that you have a routine in place for you for health reasons and mental reasons, emotional reasons. Everything has to be structured. That's why time exists. It's to give us an opportunity to balance out our karma or allow ourselves to be restricted to fix things that when we were unaware, we didn't know. But now when we become aware, it's our duty to fulfill it. All right, so moving on to Uranus. This is the higher octave of Mercury. So again, we're tapping into the nervous system. And this is also a representative of sudden energy. So sudden disorders, something you was not expecting, mostly related to Aquarius. So Uranus also rules over electrical systems in the body, which is our nervous system and the circulation heavily. Symbolizes innovation and sudden change. Now, of course, we already talked about circulation with the sun. So the sun's circulation is about circulating that life force energy, circulating that free will, that power, that chi. Okay. Uranus circulation has to do with moving that electrical field, because we're magnetic. With the sun, we're magnetic. And then we have the electrical parts of us. So Uranus tapping into the electrical system of the body, that has to be moved around, because that's how we are picking up things with our nervous system. That's how the brain is tapping into with the nervous system, as well as our heart is tapping into with our nervous system in the rest of the body. So, some Uranus health themes: nervous shocks, spasms, accidents, unpredictable illnesses. So, this could even be like, this can even include ADHD, This can even include, well, yeah, ADHD, ADD, autism, cerebral palsy. I'm just channeling it through me right now. It can include things of that nature as well, stuff that you really you couldn't control it even if you wanted to. It's just something that just happened. Okay, this can also be with the nervous system and the brain. People who have bad why I can't think of it. The electrical things in the brain has to reset. So there you could stare off into space and have one, or you could just be laying on the floor, foaming at the mouth when you have one too. For whatever reason, I'm not allowed to say the word, but Aquarius have to be very, very, Sun Aquarius have to be very, very careful with their electrical system in the body because their brain can be shocked by something that can send them over. It can overwhelm the body where the brain has to go through a reset. Okay. So balancing Uranus energy requires grounding practices. This is being in touch with and in tune with the earth. Whenever we have big thunderstorms and things of that nature, we also look to, is it safe where trees are? Like, is it going to strike a tree branch? Is it going to fall? Well, the thing about earth and thunder, or lightning, really, the lightning, is that it's connected to earth magnetically. So whenever we're in a moment where our nervous system feels kind of fried because of all the stuff that we've been through, and we're trying to reshape our nervous system to act a certain way, it requires you to do more grounding practices. So that does include going out and touching grass, hugging a tree, doing meditation, giving yourself like 5 things to look for in your immediate environment to get you back into your body. Those are grounding practices. And you want to keep that with a steady routine, of course, with Saturn, and using calming herbs such as valerian root, lavender, lemon balm, things of that nature to keep you serene and calm. Because the thing about Aquarius or Uranus energy is it's forcing you to do something that is unique. But at the same time, if your body isn't prepared for it, if your body isn't open to receiving that, it can misfire into an illness because energetically you're blocking it, even if it's subconsciously. So let's get into Neptune. This is our crazy drunk auntie or grandmother energy, but the Neptune connects with immunity and sensitivity. All right, Neptune rules the feet, the lymphatic system, which is which kind of connects with the 12th house because they say the 12th house is like the garbage, the garbage chute house. But the lymphatic system is really what cleanses the body. Okay, they have sites or cells that go through the body and snuff out all the damage, all the gunk, all the radicals that's entered the body. And we don't know how they got there exactly, but they got to go. The lymphatic system is what cleanses out that body. Now, the lymphatic system also has to be cleaned out as well in order for the immunity to be at peak. Our biggest immunity is in our gut, which is our spleen. That's a part of our immunity system. Okay. So these work together, and the feet is where everything comes out. And it's very important that they get a picture of your baby feet before they leave the hospital because they want a copy of the soul, baby. Your handprint is important just as your footprint is important. Your feet is tied to everything in the body, right? Right? So Neptune again symbolizes spirituality, dreams, illusions. Okay, this is a part of health that has to do with addiction, confusion, immune disorders, which is self-inflicted, right? Psychosomatic illness as well. Raise your hand if you have any sixth house placements, especially if it's in the moon. Okay, sixth house moon placement speaking. How our mood is a direct link to how our health is. And I've learned very quickly during my Saturn return, if I do not get enough rest or sleep, with Sun's 12th house, Moon, 6th house, of course, sleep is going to be a big thing. But whenever you lack sleep, your body is going to show you why. So, for example, if I lack sleep, because Neptune is connected to dreams and illusions and spirituality, if you lack sleep, your body is going to show in your lack of sleepness what's bothering you the most. And I'm from one of those people, if I don't sleep, I get sick. And it's not the same thing every time either. All right. Now, again, Neptune health themes has to do with spirituality and illusion. Heavy, heavy, heavy. So, this is the part of health where it's all objective. Okay. We have to look at the facts of things, and then we have to go into the psyche of the patient that we are working on, because the symptoms and signs that they're producing right now, we can't pinpoint it anywhere. We don't know what's going on. We don't know where it's coming from. Okay. Very elusive. Okay. And addiction, example. We want to know why someone or how did someone get addicted to something. It's coming from a deeper rooted issue within themselves, spiritually speaking. And it's creating an illusion or a filter over life that causes them to be addicted to whatever that vice is, whether it's attention, whether it's creating contentions, alcohol, heavy drugs, TV, sugar, you know, those are different addictions. But it's like, okay, yes, we see the addiction, of course, but where's the confusion as to why this is being your outlet instead of something more healthier? We got to dig into that. And psychosomatic, which is the majority, or if not all, where illnesses come from, is because this is generational as well. Neptune is generational. So some of the addictions, some of the immune disorders, some of the psychosomatic illnesses we have, which is basically us telling ourselves that, oh, well, so and so had this, so I'm more likely, or my child is more likely. And that's not even literally the case. It's psychosomatic. It's your mind and your body and how they work together. Are they working to um, bring more life into you based on how you talk to yourself, based on the environments you put yourself in, based on your spiritual beliefs? Do you spiritually believe that you are an exalted being that came here to live earth and go through, experiencing the senses and how beautiful it is? Or are you confusing your ability to live here free will as some sort of pain or punishment from some other life or something like that? You're confusing your gift of life and your spirituality and the dreams that you are being given as some sort of pain or punishment, or you're being criminalized. That's Neptune behavior. And all of that, negative feeling about yourself ends up fueling your ability to develop an immune disorder. And a lot of people with immune disorders that develop over time, whether they knew about them for a while or not, the underlying cause of every immune disorder is the fact that you feel you can't protect yourself. You feel like you can't save yourself. You feel like any danger that comes around you, you have to be automatically subjected to. Like you have no defenses, no boundaries, no nothing. And that's what Neptune or Pisces energy represents in your chart. The balancing of Neptune energy has to do with spiritual discipline, grounding, healthy escapes, in art, meditation. So yes, we talked about grounding during breathing exercises, being one with the earth, but this also talks about healthy escapes, because Neptune is about escaping. It is about blurring the lines of, Saturn, in order to escape out the system that you spiritually feel like you don't belong in. And the only way you can see the window in a room full of steel is if you spiritually get yourself there first, which is why mental health has become so important over the next few years and in the past few years. Because if your mental health, okay, and that's Virgo, opposite Pisces, Mercury, if your mental health is not okay, that's going to trigger off other things in your body to not be okay because you're not aligned with having control over your mind. That means the subconscious mind is taking up, it's always consuming information around you. Neptune is always taking everything in. There's no boundary. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality and dream world. Okay. So if your conscious mind is not tapped on or tuned in or anything like that, then your subconscious mind is going to be the one that's in more control. And those are the people we see in psych wards. Those are the people we see with severe cases of like schizophrenia or hallucinations and things of that nature, because their conscious mind isn't powerful as the subconscious mind in their chart. So we've made it to Pluto. They tried to make Pluto less of a planet, but we ain't having it. Pluto got our back, okay? So Pluto is the planet of regeneration and reproductive organs, okay? Pluto rules reproductive organs, elimination, cellular regeneration. And a lot of that has been on the brain in the health industry lately, okay? We're not going to mention the unmentionable because that's played a huge role in trying to reconfigure or restructure the human DNA or RNA, mRNA. Those medicines that they gave to millions of people for free, knowing that it's people with diabetes and stuff like that who need insulin or who needs specific medicines, they will not give that them to, they won't give that to them for free, but they gave everybody else that other medicine for free. They was giving it out like Oprah, okay, for a reason. Don't ever dismiss that immutable fact. All of that was set up to reconstruct the cellular structure of a human body, just like they tried to do back in Atlantis, just like they tried to do back with the people who came, the Anunnaki. Somebody's always trying to alter our DNA, our structure, how we do things to elevate creation in the way that they feel is best. Okay, and our body's already going to naturally evolve because the woman is always evolving. The man's body don't really evolve. It's the woman's body who's always had to evolve. All right, so in that regeneration, in that reproductive elimination, cellular regeneration, biggest thing where we can have cellular regeneration, the womb, our reproductive organ. What does it produce? It produces epithelial tissue that's also considered to be stem cell tissue. And when stem cells can be used to be put in other places where it can regenerate whatever was lost. And why was that hidden? Why was that considered taboo, Pluto? Because Pluto symbolizes transformation, power, death, and rebirth. Some other things that relate to health in Pluto is reproductive disorders, elimination issues, chronic deep illnesses, terminal illnesses. Okay, so this is elimination issues. You have the endocrine and the exocrine systems. The endocrine is about what's within, that talks about our hormones, and the exocrine is about what's being released, whether it's elimination of bowels, urine, sweat, tears. All that has to happen in order to maintain the balance. And once those things have been eliminated, they can't go back into your body. They just get refilled and eliminated all over again. That's Pluto. All right, having a strong Pluto, healthy Pluto placement, even Pluto in the eighth house, can definitely symbolize to me like you have a great stamina for, regenerating your body. Not necessarily sex. I kind of equate sex with the fifth house in the sun and Mars, because Mars is the libido. Mars is libido, not Pluto. Pluto is the part of our lives where things shift and change, and we have to go through that experience. And it can be, this is pregnancy relates to regeneration and reproductive organs. um, we face, when we're pregnant, we can face elimination issues. We can find out we have some illnesses that we didn't know that we had that might come to the surface, or you might have a temporary, like some people have high blood pressure, or they may have diabetes and gestational diabetes, like things like that happen where you have to go through the experience and it's something you can't back out of, or you can't not know what it's like anymore. With my oldest daughter, I had, carpal tunnel real bad. Figures with a Gemini, pregnant with a Gemini, having carpal tunnel. I had it real bad with my oldest daughter. And once I had her and she got out, I didn't have it no more. Okay. So pregnancy also included here under Pluto. All right. Your body is shifting and changing and moving in such a way that it hasn't done before. And each pregnancy is different. Even if you have similar symptoms, even if you have a good pregnancy, each one is healthy. Whatever it is, it doesn't even matter. Every pregnancy is different. It has to be. Because it's a different soul experience in your body. So no two souls are alike. So to balance out your Pluto energy when it comes to allowing your body to regenerate and eliminate what is no longer serving it, this is where we get into deep detox ritual. This is doing yoni steams, steaming your skin, doing sauna. Okay. This is also doing fasting, water fast. Okay. Fasting where you just don't eat anything, you just sunlight, and that's it. A fruit fast, a pescatarian, okay, a vegetarian, a vegan. These are different ways to detox your body as a ritual because you're becoming more controlled in how you enter and exit your avatar body. Like, what are you using? Trauma healing. This is therapy, whether it's physical therapy, recreational therapy, psychotherapy. Therapy is one good tool to help with trauma healing, as well as stretching. There's quite a few people who've become very prominent with their ability to help women or men stretch their bodies in a way, especially the hip area, stretch their bodies out. So whatever trauma they had in their body, whether it was from SA or even like violence, trauma from DV, or just growing up being in abusive situations, in the body is where it keeps score, and you will allow yourself to stretch slowly, taking deep breaths to release all that trauma out your body, out the fascia. Okay, that's becoming very big and very popular over here in the Western country. Conscious transformation practices. Okay, so this is also being in a meditative or trance state. Okay, because Pluto is about what's hidden. It is about the death rebirth. It is about power and control. Okay, so you're putting yourself in a meditative state. You are repeating mantras. You're listening to subliminal messages. Like you taking conscious action to change something in your subconscious consciously. So, for example, with the yoni steam, I did a yoni steam for Scorpio full moon eclipse that year. And even though I'm doing something physically like a yoni steam, which is a detox ritual, a healing, a trauma healing ritual, I'm doing something physically, but my intention is spiritual beyond the physical. I'm tying it all together. I'm giving death. I'm bringing death to whatever the herbs, the flowers, the steam is able to remove physically from my body. And as I'm allowing that to happen consciously, I'm also tapping into the fact that that transformation of cleansing is also releasing things that's been held in my body that I did or did not know on a spiritual soul level that I can also release and look at the physical releases as spiritual releases. Pluto has a way of allowing that to happen. And with the cellular regeneration, whether it's your nervous system, whether it's the stem cells in your womb, we also have to use water. Pluto is connected to the deep waters just as much as Lilith, just as much as the moon is. And it's very important with any death or rebirth or transformation that takes place We want to rejuvenate after we do detoxes. It's very, even if you do a 2-day fast, you have to hydrate your body after you remove all that deathly energy from your body. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you made it this far in the video, please drop some medical astrology notes that you've taken, something you want to take with you, any key takeaways. When it comes to planets, that's your root energetic pattern, the influence of both the physical health and the emotional state. Balancing the planetary energy will help you balance out or figure out a way to deal with long-term illnesses if you haven't already gotten completely rid of them. We're moving, especially Pluto being in Aquarius right now, and Uranus going into Gemini. We're going to have a ton of information pop out about how we can get rid of so many different illnesses. And they might be removing them physically, but you have to pay attention spiritually what each illness or ailment is saying to you about your soul journey right now, where you are, and how to help spiritually remove it so it doesn't come back physically. That's what it's all about now, living forever. So the next thing I will be getting into after this is taking a look at the herbs. Okay, that's what's next on the medical astrology, is taking a look at the herbs, what elements, planets, even deities they connect with, and how they can be utilized for our homeostasis or a greater good. So if you would like to go over your natal chart and explore what planetary health themes you might be carrying, this is a paid service after the presentation. So if you want to connect with me, you can email me at imluminescent@gmail.com. That's the greatest way to get in touch with me. I do have my Linktree available. So if you want to book your reading that way, instead of emailing to set up appointment, that is also fine. All right, so I have a tip jar here. This is my Linktree. If you can scan with your phone or another device, that'll take you directly to my Linktree where you can book or receive other, like the ebook or my socials. That's a way to get in touch with me. Here's also my email address at imluminescent@gmail.com, where I can be reached. Thank you so much for tuning into this presentation. I hope it found you well and it helps you to be a greater you on your journey and helping others and doing whatever it is you came here to do. Peace.